Welcome to Marple Whispers, I'm Sean. Tell me, where are you listening from right now? And what time is it there? I'd love to know. Share it in the comments along with how you liked the story. I reply to every single one of you. Now let's step into the mystery. In the vibrant chaos of Shanghai's Lantern Festival, a glittering night of floating wishes and fiery dragons hides a deadly secret. When Sir Reginald Hargrove is found stabbed under a glowing lantern, clutching a shattered jade relic, Miss Jane Marple, the sharp-eyed spinster from St. Mary Mead, steps into a web of greed, blackmail, and betrayal. From a nervous niece with a jade ring to a flamboyant milliner's hidden purchase, every clue flickers with danger. Can Miss Marple unravel the truth before the festival's lights fade? Dive into a mystery where every shadow holds a secret. Chapter 1. The Unexpected Invitation. The steamer Empress of the East cut through the murky waters of the Huangpu River like a reluctant ghost, its whistle echoing against the skyline of Shanghai. A jumble of towering go-downs, sleek foreign banks, and the distant haze of pagoda roofs. Miss Jane Marple stood at the rail, her gloved hands gripping the polished wood, her sharp blue eyes taking in the chaotic vitality of the port. At 70-odd years, she had seen her share of arrivals and departures in the quiet lanes of St. Mary Mead, but this was different. A symphony of rickshaw bells, shouting coolies, and the acrid tang of coal smoke mingling with exotic spices. Quite the adventure, she murmured to herself, adjusting her sensible hat against the humid breeze. One never knows what secrets lurk in foreign climes, much like that unfortunate business with the missionary's trunk back home. It had all begun with a letter, crisp and embossed with the seal of the British legation, from Sir Reginald Hargrove. An old friend of her nephew Raymond's diplomatic circles, Sir Reginald had retired to the Orient after a career dodging intrigues in Peking and Hong Kong. "My dear Miss Marple," the missive had read, "Shanghai beckons with its Lantern Festival, a riot of colour and enigma that would delight your perceptive mind. Join me. Perhaps we'll unravel a riddle or two amid the festivities." She had accepted, of course. Curiosity was her constant companion, and the festival promised more than mere spectacle. People, after all, were the same everywhere, driven by the same passions, hiding the same shadows. As the gangplank lowered with a metallic groan, Sir Reginald emerged from the throng on the wharf, waving energetically. He was a portly man in his 60s, his face ruddy from years under tropical suns, clad in a linen suit that strained at the buttons and a pith helmet that seemed more theatrical than practical. "Miss Marple, splendid, simply splendid," he boomed, clasping her hand with vigour. "You've timed it perfectly. The festival peaks tomorrow night. Lights everywhere, like 1,000, fireflies plotting mischief." Beside him stood a woman of striking poise, her dark hair pinned under a veiled cloche hat, her eyes shadowed with a weariness that no amount of powder could conceal. "This is my niece, Eliza Hargrove," Sir Reginald introduced, his voice dropping a notch. "Fresh from London, poor thing. Lost her husband last year. A tragic accident on the cliffs of Devon. Travel's the best tonic, eh?" Eliza extended a slender hand, her smile warm but fleeting, like sunlight piercing fog only to vanish. "Aunt Jane, if I may presume, Uncle's tales of your deductions have intrigued me no end. It's a relief to have a sensible soul amid all of this exotic whirl." Miss Marple nodded graciously, noting the faint tremor in Eliza's grip, the way her gaze flicked toward the bustling crowds as if expecting an unwelcome face. It put her in mind of young Mrs. Clements in the village, whose laughter always rang a bit too brightly after her husband's mysterious fall from the church tower. "Delighted, my dear, and please, call me Miss Marple. Titles keep things tidy, don't they?" The party grew as others joined. Dr. Liang Wei, a lean Chinese gentleman with wire-rimmed spectacles and a scholarly air. His silk robe whispering as he bowed. "An honour, Miss Marple. I'm a physician of traditional remedies, herbs and acupuncture, you see. Sir Reginald consults me on matters of antiquities." His voice was measured, almost too precise, and Miss Marple caught the brief hesitation, as if antiquities masked something sharper. Then there was Madame Duval, a vivacious Frenchwoman whose millinery shop in the French concession supplied hats to the city's elite. Her own creation, a confection of ostrich plumes and silk roses, bobbed as she curtsied dramatically. "Enchanté! Shanghai is a stage, no? And we are all players. But beware the undercurrents. They pull one in unexpected directions." Finally, Tommy Beresford, a lanky British journalist in his late 20s, with tousled hair and an ever-present notebook. "Miss Marple, ma'am, heard you're a wizard at puzzles. I'm here sniffing out stories, smuggling rings, warlord whispers. This festival's a goldmine for intrigue." As they piled into a convoy of rickshaws, the drivers pedalling furiously through the thronged streets, Miss Marple settled back, her knitting bag on her lap. The city unfolded in a blur. Neon signs in Chinese characters flickering against the dusk, street vendors hawking steaming buns and glittering trinkets, the distant wail of a saxophone from a jazz club. Sir Reginald chattered on about the festival's legends. Lanterns lit to guide lost souls, riddles etched on the silk to ward off evil. But his eyes darted nervously to the shadows, his hand absently patting a bulge in his coat pocket. Eliza laughed at one of Tommy's quips, but it was a brittle sound, cut short as a firecracker exploded nearby. Dr. Liang murmured something in Mandarin to a passing vendor, his expression inscrutable. Madame Duval fanned herself, complaining of the heat, yet her gaze lingered on Sir Reginald's pocket with undue interest. Miss Marple clicked her needle softly, weaving a pattern as intricate as the web she sensed forming. "Such a lively group," she said mildly to no one in particular. "Reminds me of a garden party in St. Mary Mead, where everyone smiled so charmingly until the vicar's prize marrow went missing, and oh, the revelations that followed." Her companions chuckled politely, but she noted the subtle shifts. A tightened jaw here, a averted glance there. Shanghai might be worlds away from her village, but human nature travelled light, carrying its secrets in every suitcase. As the rickshaws approached the glittering Bund, with its grand hotels and river vistas, a sense of anticipation hung in the air, like the calm before a storm, or the hush before a curtain, rose on a drama laced with peril. Little did they know, the first act was already underway. Chapter 2. Lights in the Night. The Lantern Festival descended upon Shanghai with the subtlety of a silk fan unfurling in a crowded ballroom, revealing layers of colour, sound, and hidden intent. As dusk bled into night, the streets of the French concession transformed into a labyrinth of luminescence. Crimson lanterns swayed from every eave and lamppost, their paper skins painted with dragons, phoenixes, and cryptic riddles that promised fortune or folly. Throngs of revellers surged like a human tide, silk chong-samed women with parasols, men in western suits clutching cigars, children darting underfoot with glowing toys. Fireworks erupted in staccato bursts, painting the sky in gold and scarlet, while the air thickened with the sizzle of street vendors' woks. Plump dumplings bubbling in sesame oil, skewers of candied hawthorns glistening like jewels, and the sharp tang of roasted chestnuts competing with the heady waft of temple incense. Miss Jane Marple, ensconced in the back of a rickshaw beside Eliza Hargrove, absorbed it all with her customary quiet acuity. The rickshaw's wheels rattled over uneven cobblestones, jolting her slightly, but her mind remained steady, sifting through impressions like grains of rice in a sieve. "Such vitality," she remarked to Eliza, her voice carrying over the din. "It reminds me of the May Day Fair in St. Mary Mead. Everyone so merry on the surface, yet one always senses the undercurrents, don't you think? A misplaced glance, a hurried whisper." Eliza nodded absently, her fingers worrying the jade ring on her left hand, twisting it as if it were a key to some locked sorrow. "Yes, quite. Uncle says the lanterns ward off evil spirits, but I wonder if they don't just illuminate them instead." Her eyes, dark and restless, scanned the crowds, lingering on a shadowy alley where a group of men in long coats huddled, their faces obscured by the flickering light. Ahead, Sir Reginald led the procession, his pith helmet bobbing like a cork on waves, gesturing animatedly to Dr. Liang Wei, who walked with measured steps, his silk robe blending seamlessly into the festival's tapestry. Madame Duval, her peacock-feathered hat a beacon of extravagance, chattered beside Tommy Beresford, who juggled his notebook and a camera, snapping shots of the spectacle. "Mon cher Tommy, capture me with the lanterns, make me look mysterious," she trilled, posing dramatically as a rocket whistled overhead. They alighted at the Jade Pavilion Tea House, a venerable establishment perched on the Bun's edge, its balconies overhanging the Huangpu River like watchful eyes. Floating lanterns dotted the water below, bobbing gently on the current, tiny vessels of rice paper and candle flame, each carrying a written wish or prayer. "Tradition holds that they bear away one's misfortunes," Dr. Liang explained as they settled at a lacquered table, his voice a calm counterpoint to the surrounding clamour. He poured jasmine tea from a porcelain pot, the steam curling like incense. In ancient times, emperors released them to appease the river gods. Madame Duval threw back her head in laughter, her feathers quivering. "Ah, but in Paris we chase misfortune with champagne and cabaret. None of this floating nonsense. Pop the cork and let the bubbles do the work." She raised her cup in mock toast, her eyes sparkling with what Miss Marple noted as forced gaiety, the kind that masked deeper unease, much like Lady Edgware's brittle mirth before that dreadful dinner-party scandal. Tommy Beresford scribbled furiously in his notebook, his gaze flicking toward Eliza with unmistakable interest. "Fascinating stuff for my article. Shanghai's glowing ghosts, festival or facade." He leaned closer to her. "What misfortune would you float away, Miss Hargrove, if you don't mind my asking?" Eliza's smile faltered, her hand tightening on her cup. "Oh, nothing dramatic, just the usual burdens of loss." She glanced at her uncle, who was deep in hushed conversation with Dr. Liang at the table's end. Miss Marple sipped her tea delicately, the floral notes soothing amid the sensory assault. From her vantage, she observed the interplay. Sir Reginald's face, usually jovial, now creased with urgency as he leaned toward the doctor. "That jade lantern of yours, Liang, it's more than a relic, isn't it? Priceless, yes, but dangerous in the wrong hands. Ancient secrets etched inside, or so the legends say. You'd do well to let me handle its sale. Discreetly, of course." Dr. Liang's expression remained inscrutable, his fingers tracing the rim of his cup, Legends are like lanterns, Sir Reginald, beautiful, but often hollow. It is a family heirloom, not for barter. And secrets? They belong to those who can keep them. His tone was polite, yet Miss Marple detected a steel edge, reminiscent of the village doctor's quiet firmness when denying a prescription that might invite abuse. Sir Reginald's voice dropped lower, but not low enough to escape the old lady's keen ears. Come now, man. I've contacts in London, collectors who'd pay a fortune, and with your financial straits, as I've heard. He trailed off as Eliza approached, her face a mask of concern. Uncle, please, not here. The festival is for joy, not business. Her intervention was swift, her hand on his arm gentle but insistent. Sir Reginald harumphed, straightening his helmet, but the tension lingered like smoke from a doused firework. Miss Marple filed the exchange away, her mind drawing parallels to the heirloom disputes in St. Mary Mead. The old squire's contested silver chalice, which had sparked envy and, ultimately, a midnight theft that unravelled into something far graver. People revealed themselves in such moments, greed flickering in the eyes, fear in the set of a shoulder. She turned her attention to the river, where a cluster of lanterns clustered unnaturally, as if drawn by an invisible current. How curious, she murmured. Some wishes seem reluctant to drift away. As the hour neared midnight, the group ventured deeper into the festival's throbbing heart, weaving through the old city's narrow lanes toward the yew garden. The displays grew grander, colossal lanterns sculpted into mythical beasts, coiling dragons with scales of crimson silk, fierce tigers poised to leap, ethereal phoenixes trailing flames of light. Acrobats twirled on stilts, jugglers tossed flaming orbs, and musicians struck gongs that reverberated through the bones. Tommy linked arms with Eliza, pointing out a riddle lantern. What has roots as nobody sees, is taller than trees, up, up it goes, and yet never grows. He grinned boyishly. A mountain, right? Bet there's a prize for solving it. Eliza's laughter was genuine this time, a brief spark in the night. Clever, but some riddles aren't meant to be solved too quickly. Nearby, Madame Duval bartered with a vendor for a small lantern charm, her haggling sharp and theatrical, while Dr. Liang paused at a stall of herbal remedies, examining vials with professional interest. Sir Reginald, ever the enthusiast, urged them onward. The grand finale's ahead, the Emperor's Lantern Parade, lights to rival the stars. But Miss Marple noticed his hand straying again to his coat pocket, as if safeguarding something precious. The crowd pressed closer, a sea of faces illuminated in flashes, joyous, masked, anonymous. Then, amid the revelry, a shadow stirred. A figure in a dark overcoat brushed past Sir Reginald, their exchange too fleeting to discern, but Miss Marple caught the glint of something past. A note? A warning? Sir Reginald's face paled, his step faltering. The group reached the garden's central plaza, where a massive dragon lantern loomed, its jaws agape in eternal roar. Fireworks climaxed in a deafening cascade, the sky ablaze. In that moment of distraction, a scream rent the air. Not the gleeful shriek of a child, nor the exclamation of surprise, but a raw, piercing cry of terror that sliced through the merriment like a blade through silk. Heads turned, the crowd parting in confusion. Miss Marple's heart quickened, her instincts sharpening. "Oh dear," she said softly as the others froze. "I fear the misfortunes have not all floated away tonight." The scream echoed once more, drawing them inexorably toward the dragon's shadow, where the festival's glow would soon reveal a darkness no lantern could dispel. Chapter 3. The Body in the Glow. The scream lingered in the Shanghai night, sharp and jagged as broken glass, cutting through the festive clamour of the Lantern Festival. Beneath the towering dragon lantern, its scales of crimson and gold shimmering in the flickering light, a crowd parted like a curtain drawn back on a grim tableau. Sir Reginald Hargrove lay sprawled across the cobblestones, his pith helmet tipped askew, his ruddy face frozen in a rictus of shock. From his chest protruded the hilt of an ornate dagger, its blade etched with Chinese characters that gleamed wetly with blood. The pool beneath him spread like spilled ink, black and glistening under the swaying lanterns. In his clenched hand, a shattered jade lantern, its delicate frame cracked as if crushed in a struggle, caught the firelight, casting eerie green flecks across his lifeless form. Miss Jane Marple, standing at the edge of the stunned circle, adjusted her spectacles and leaned forward slightly, her knitting bag clutched tightly. The scene reminded her of a long-ago incident in St. Mary Mead, when a poacher's trap had caught more than its intended quarry. "Dear me," she murmured, her voice soft but steady. "Such a waste of light." Her eyes, keen as a hawk's, darted over the body, the dagger's ceremonial flourish, the precise angle of the wound, the curious grip on the broken artifact. "Poison, perhaps, to hasten the end?" she mused, recalling a case involving a tainted knitting needle that had baffled the local constabulary. Eliza Hargrove collapsed to her knees beside her uncle, her cry half sob, half wail. "No, no, it can't be!" Her hands hovered over Sir Reginald, as if to shake him awake, but stopped short, trembling. Tommy Beresford, pale as the moon, caught her shoulders, his journalist's instincts warring with shock. "Steady, Eliza! Don't touch him," he urged, his voice cracking as he glanced around, eyes wild for answers. Dr. Liang Wei knelt beside the body, his physician's composure barely masking a flicker of unease. "The dagger," he said quietly, his fingers hovering near but not touching the blade. "It's ceremonial, sold at festival stalls, not meant for this." His gaze met Miss Marple's briefly, and she noted the shadow of calculation in his expression, like a village apothecary weighing a dangerous dose. Madame Duval, her peacock-feathered hat quivering, pressed a lace handkerchief to her lips. "Mon Dieu, c'est horrible! Who could commit such an act amid such beauty?" Her voice trembled, yet Miss Marple observed the way her eyes darted to the crowd, as if seeking a face, or ensuring one went unseen. The festival's din faded as a cordon of police pushed through, led by Inspector Chen, a wiry man with a moustache that twitched like a cat scenting prey. His dark eyes surveyed the scene with clinical precision. "No one leaves," he barked in accented English, his men fanning out to herd the onlookers back. "This is now a crime scene. You," he pointed at Sir Reginald's companions, "stay where you are." He crouched beside the body, noting the jade lantern's fragments. "An artifact of value, yes? Motive, perhaps?" Miss Marple stepped closer, her small frame unassuming, but her presence commanding attention. "Inspector, might I observe? I've some experience with unfortunate incidents." Her tone was mild, almost apologetic, but Chen's moustache twitched again, this time with curiosity. "Very well, madam, but do not interfere." She knelt briefly, her knees protesting the cold stone, and peered at the dagger. The characters etched on it were unfamiliar, but their elegance suggested something more than a tourist trinket. The jade lantern, now in pieces, bore faint carvings, symbols perhaps, or a cipher. "Most curious," she said softly. "It's as if he held on to it for dear life, yet it broke. A struggle, or a message?" Her mind flicked to a village fete where a broken teacup had revealed a hidden note, unravelling a theft. The crowd buzzed with whispers as Inspector Chen's men cordoned off the area, lanterns swaying wildly above, casting grotesque shadows. A young officer retrieved a festival mask, red and gold, with a snarling tiger's face, discarded near a lantern stall. "Found this nearby, sir," he reported. Tommy's face tightened. He'd worn a similar mask earlier, twirling it for Eliza's amusement. "That's not mine," he protested. "Anyone could have taken it." Eliza, now standing with Tommy's support, clutched her jade ring, her face ashen. Uncle was nervous tonight. He kept patting his pocket, as if guarding something. I thought it was just his usual fussiness. Her voice broke, and Miss Marple noted the hesitation, the way her eyes avoided the shattered lantern. Dr. Liang spoke up, his voice calm but strained. "Sir Reginald was interested in my family's jade lantern. He believed it held historical significance, perhaps worth a fortune to collectors. I lent it to him for appraisal, nothing more." His fingers twitched, as if itching to reclaim the broken relic. Madame Duval fanned herself, her plumes drooping in the humid air. "Such violence! I saw nothing, Inspector, only lights and laughter. But last night, at the tea-house, I overheard Sir Reginald on the telephone. He sounded agitated. A threat, perhaps, about money owed." Her words hung heavy, drawing sharp glances from the others. Inspector Chen scribbled in a notebook, his eyes narrowing. "Debts, artifacts, threats. This is no random act." He turned to the group. "You were all with him tonight. Speak, what did you see?" Tommy shifted uncomfortably. "I was taking photos, talking to Eliza. Sir Reginald was ahead, arguing with Dr. Liang about that lantern. I didn't see anyone approach him." His voice was earnest, but Miss Marple caught the nervous tug at his collar, reminiscent of a young man in her village caught fibbing about a stolen bicycle. Eliza's voice trembled. "I was beside Tommy, watching the parade. Uncle was right there then the scream. I didn't see anyone near him." Yet her hands twisted together, and Miss Marple wondered if fear or guilt fueled her agitation. Dr. Liang shook his head. "I was discussing the lantern's history with him, nothing more. We stepped apart to admire the dragon display, and then—" He gestured helplessly at the body. Madame Duval clutched her handkerchief tighter. "I was bargaining for a charm when I heard the cry. I saw nothing but the crowd surging back." Miss Marple listened, her needles clicking faintly in her mind's rhythm, though her hands remained still. "People are like these lanterns, Inspector," she said gently. "Bright and lovely, but what fuels their glow? Envy, greed, fear. Such things burn hotter than any candle." Chen's eyes flicked to her, intrigued but skeptical. As the police began their grim work, photographing the scene and collecting fragments of the jade lantern, Miss Marple's gaze lingered on the dagger. Its placement suggested a swift, practiced hand, not a frenzied attack, but a deliberate strike. The broken lantern in Sir Reginald's grip puzzled her most. Why clutch it as he fell? Was it a prize worth dying for, or a clue to his killer? The crowd dispersed slowly, their festive mood snuffed out like a doused flame. Inspector Chen ordered the group to remain in Shanghai, under watch, as he summoned them for formal questioning at dawn. Eliza clung to Tommy, her sobs muffled, while Dr. Liang stared at the river. His face a mask of quiet grief, or calculation. Madame Duval whispered a prayer in French, her eyes darting to the shadows. Miss Marple stepped back, her mind weaving threads of motive and opportunity. "It's like that affair with the vicar's missing arms box," she murmured to herself. Everyone swore they saw nothing, yet the truth was there, hiding in plain sight, like a shadow cast by too many lights. As the dragon lantern flickered above, its glow now ominous, she knew the night's secrets were only beginning to unravel. Chapter 4. Shadows of Suspicion. The morning after the Lantern Festival murder dawned grey and heavy, as if Shanghai itself mourned Sir Reginald Hargrove's violent end. Mist clung to the Bund, shrouding the grand facades of colonial buildings in a veil that mirrored the uncertainty hanging over the group. Miss Jane Marple sat in the drawing-room of Sir Reginald's rented villa, a colonial relic in the French concession with creaking floorboards and high ceilings that echoed with whispers of past intrigues. The air smelled of polished teak and stale cigar smoke, undercut by the faint dampness of the river nearby. Her knitting needles clicked rhythmically, a soft counterpoint to the tension that crackled among the assembled company. Eliza Hargrove, Tommy Beresford, Dr. Liang Wei, and Madame Duval, all summoned for questioning by the formidable Inspector Chen. The inspector stood by a rosewood desk, his moustache bristling with purpose as he flipped through a leather-bound notebook. "A man of Sir Reginald's standing does not die by chance," he declared, his accented English sharp as the dagger that had ended the diplomat's life. "One of you knows more than you've said. Speak plainly, or I will dig until the truth bleeds." Miss Marple, perched on a velvet-upholstered chair, observed the group with her deceptively mild gaze. It was like the aftermath of the St. Mary Mead Flower Show theft, when accusations flew and every smile hid a motive. Eliza sat rigidly, her hands folded tightly in her lap, the jade ring on her finger catching the light like a tiny green flame. Tommy slouched beside her, his notebook idle for once, his eyes darting as if expecting a trap. Dr. Liang stood by the window, his silk robe immaculate, his face a study in calm that bordered on detachment. Madame Duval, her hat mercifully subdued today with only a single egret feather, fidgeted with a string of pearls, her usual vivacity dimmed by the morning's grim purpose. Inspector Chen began with Eliza. "Miss Hargrove, your uncle was in debt, yes? Gambling debts, perhaps, from his passion for antiquities? Did he provoke someone dangerous?" Eliza's lips trembled, but her voice held steady. "Uncle was reckless with money. He loved rare objects, jade, porcelain, anything with a story. He owed sums to dealers in the old city, men with rough manners. I begged him to stop, but he said the jade lantern would settle everything." Her eyes flicked to Dr. Liang, a flash of accusation or fear, Miss Marple couldn't decide which. Chen turned to Dr. Liang, his gaze narrowing. "This lantern, yours, you said. Why lend it to a man in financial straits? Did you suspect he meant to sell it?" Dr. Liang's fingers brushed his spectacles, a gesture of composure. "It was a family heirloom, Inspector, entrusted to Sir Reginald for appraisal. Its carvings are said to map an ancient trade route, valuable to historians, not thieves. I had no reason to doubt his intentions." His tone was smooth, but Miss Marple noted the slight tightening of his jaw, like the village grocer when questioned about shortchanging a customer. Tommy Beresford shifted uncomfortably as Chen's eyes fell on him. "Mr. Beresford, you argued with Sir Reginald last night. Witnesses saw you near the dragon, lantern, and that mask, yours, was it not, found at the scene?" Tommy's face flushed. "I told you, Inspector, that mask was stolen. I was photographing the parade, chasing a story about artifact smuggling. Sir Reginald was mixed up in it, maybe too deep. We had words, yes, but I didn't kill him." His voice rose, and Miss Marple saw Eliza's hand brush his arm, a gesture of comfort or caution. Madame Duval, when questioned, fluttered her hands dramatically. "Moi? I am a milliner, Inspector, not a murderer. I heard Sir Reginald on the telephone yesterday, arguing about money, something about paying what's owed or facing consequences. I thought it was business, not this." Her pearls clicked as she clutched them, and Miss Marple wondered if her theatrical dismay concealed a sharper truth. The inspector produced a new clue. A muddy footprint in the villa's garden, leading from the rear gate to a hedge where a second festival mask, this one a jade-green dragon, lay discarded. "Size 10 men's," Chen said, eyeing Tommy. "Your size, Mr. Beresford." Tommy protested, insisting he'd worn only the tiger mask, now missing. "Someone's framing me!" he cried, and Miss Marple's mind flickered to a similar case, where a planted glove had nearly condemned an innocent gardener. Chen arrested Tommy on suspicion, ordering him detained at the station. As he was led away, Eliza's face crumpled, though she quickly masked it with a handkerchief. "He's no killer," she whispered to Miss Marple. "He's too earnest." The old lady nodded, unconvinced by the arrest. "Too neat, my dear," she said softly, "like a jigsaw puzzle, with pieces forced to fit. The truth is rarely so accommodating." After the others dispersed, Miss Marple lingered in the villa, her knitting a pretext to wander. She examined the garden, noting the footprint's clarity in the damp earth, deliberate perhaps, like the staged clues in that Chipping Cleghorn affair. The dragon mask, half hidden in the hedge, bore a faint scent of perfume. Jasmine, not unlike Madame Duval's. "Curious," Miss Marple murmured, tucking the observation away. She returned to the drawing-room, where a photograph on the mantel caught her eye. Sir Reginald and Eliza, smiling in a London garden with a shadowy figure in the background, too blurred to identify, yet oddly familiar. It reminded her of a snapshot from a village fete, where an unnoticed face had unlocked a motive. "People leave traces," she mused, "even when they think they've swept them away." Inspector Chen, re-entering, noticed her scrutiny. "You see something, Miss Marple?" His tone was sceptical but curious, like a man unused to trusting outsiders. "Only that motives are like shadows, Inspector," she replied, her voice gentle as a breeze. "They shift with the light. Sir Reginald's debts, that lantern, the threats, each casts a shadow, but which one hides the truth?" Chen's moustache twitched, and she sensed he was beginning to respect her quiet insight. As noon approached, Miss Marple joined the group for tea, served by a nervous maid who avoided eye contact. Conversation was strained. Eliza spoke of her uncle's love for Shanghai's chaos. Dr. Liang mentioned ancient poisons that mimicked natural death. And Madame Duval recounted a festival vendor's tale of a cloaked figure buying daggers in bulk. Each snippet landed like a pebble in a still pond, rippling with implications. Miss Marple's needles paused as she considered the players. Eliza's grief seemed genuine, yet her ring-twisting betrayed a deeper agitation, perhaps tied to those debts. Dr. Liang's calm was too studied, like a man guarding a secret as precious as his herbs. Madame Duval's chatter felt like a performance, masking something unspoken. And Tommy, his arrest seemed a convenient distraction. But for whom? The villa's clock chimed, a mournful note in the humid air. Miss Marple sipped her tea, her mind weaving a pattern as intricate as her knitting. "It's like the vicarage burglary," she said to herself. "Everyone had a story, but only one held the key to the lock." Outside, the mist thickened, and the shadows of suspicion grew longer, promising revelations yet to come. Chapter 5. Whispers Among the Lanterns. The Shanghai rain fell in a soft, relentless patter, turning the festival's remnants into a sodden tapestry of wilted paper lanterns and muddied cobblestones. The morning's mist had thickened, cloaking the French concession in a grey veil that seemed to muffle sound yet amplify suspicion. Miss Jane Marple, undeterred by the damp, navigated the old city's narrow lanes, her sensible umbrella shielding her from the drizzle as she retraced the previous night's fatal path. Her steps were measured, her eyes sharp behind her spectacles, scanning the stalls now stripped of their festive glow. She was no stranger to unravelling secrets in the aftermath of chaos. It was much like poking through the debris of a St. Mary Mead jumble sale, where discarded trinkets often hid tales of envy or betrayal. The murder of Sir Reginald Hargrove weighed heavily on her mind. Its threads, debts, artefacts, whispered threats, tangling like the skeins of wool in her knitting bag. The villa's interrogations had revealed much, yet the truth remained elusive, like a lantern's flame flickering just out of reach. Tommy Beresford's arrest felt too convenient, a distraction from deeper currents. Miss Marple paused at a stall where a vendor, his face creased like old parchment, was sweeping away soggy lantern scraps. "Good morning," she said brightly, her tone that of a kindly aunt. "Such a pity about the festival's end, and that dreadful business last night. Did you sell many daggers? The ceremonial ones with fine etchings?" The vendor squinted, wary but warmed by her gentle demeanour. "Many, lady. Popular with tourists. But one sale sticks out. A woman, foreign, with a hat like a bird's nest. Bought a dagger. Said it was for a collector." His words landed like a pebble in Miss Marple's mind, stirring ripples. A hat like a bird's nest could only mean Madame Duval. Why had she omitted this purchase during Inspector Chen's questioning? Returning to the Jade Pavilion tea house, Miss Marple found Madame Duval alone at a corner table, her egret feathered hat replaced by a subdued cloche, though her fingers still toyed nervously with her pearls. "Miss Marple, you brave the rain!" she exclaimed, her French accent lilting but strained. "This tragedy, it darkens the soul, no?" "Indeed," Miss Marple replied, settling opposite with her knitting. "But light often comes from unexpected places. I heard you bought a ceremonial dagger yesterday, a gift for Sir Reginald, perhaps?" Her tone was mild, but her eyes held the milliner's gaze. Madame Duval's pearls stilled. "A gift, oui, for his collection. I forgot to mention. Such a trifle in the face of murder." Her laugh was brittle, and Miss Marple noted the flush creeping up her neck, much like Mrs. Price's when caught fibbing about a borrowed brooch in the village. Before she could press further, Eliza Hargrove entered, her face pale but composed, her jade ring glinting as she clutched a shawl against the damp. "Aunt Jane, I needed air. The villa feels like a tomb." She sank into a chair, her eyes darting to Madame Duval with a flicker of distrust. Over tea, she confided in a low voice, "Uncle knew something about my husband's death. It wasn't an accident. He fell from those cliffs after meeting a dealer tied to Uncle's schemes. Blackmail, perhaps. I think he was scared." Miss Marple's needles paused, her mind weaving this revelation into the pattern. "Blackmail is a dangerous game, my dear," she said softly. "Like gossip in St. Mary Mead. It spreads, but someone always wants it silenced." Eliza's confession echoed a case where a villager's secret debts had led to a fatal shove down a well. Dr. Liang Wei arrived next, his silk robe damp but his composure intact. He greeted them with a slight bow, his spectacles fogging briefly in the tea-house's warmth. "Miss Marple, you seek answers in this deluge?" he asked, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Answers, like herbs, are best gathered fresh," she replied, her tone light but probing. "Your collection interests me, Doctor. Rare poisons, perhaps, among your remedies? I recall you mentioned one that mimics heart failure." Her question was gentle, but it landed like a dart. Dr. Liang's smile tightened. "For healing, Miss Marple, not harm. Aconite, in trace amounts, can calm the heart, but in the wrong hands—" He trailed off, his fingers brushing his sleeve as if to conceal something. Miss Marple filed away the gesture, reminiscent of a chemist in her village who'd once hidden a forbidden vial. As the rain drummed on, a new clue surfaced. Tommy Beresford, released on bail after a witness confirmed his presence at a distant stall during the murder, burst into the tea-house, his hair plastered to his forehead. "I've found something," he announced, brandishing a crumpled note. "A street boy sold it to me. Said he saw Eliza pass it to a cloaked figure by the river last night, just before the scream." Eliza's cup clattered to its saucer. "That's absurd. I pass no notes." Her voice rose, but her eyes betrayed panic, like a schoolgirl caught passing secrets in church. Miss Marple examined the note, its ink smudged but legible. "Meet me at the Dragon. Bring the payment." "Most intriguing," she said, her mind racing. "It's like the anonymous letter in that Chipping Cleghorn case. Meant to mislead, perhaps, but pointing to truth all the same." Inspector Chen arrived, summoned by Tommy's discovery, his moustache twitching with renewed vigour. He studied the note, then turned to Eliza. "Miss Hargrove, explain this. And why were you seen near the river, away from the group?" Eliza's hands twisted her shawl. "It was about Uncle's will. I gave a note to his lawyer's aide, arranging a meeting. Nothing sinister." Her denial was fervent, but Miss Marple noted the tremor in her voice, like a parishioner's when confessing half-truths. Chen's eyes narrowed. "And this cloaked figure, describe him." "I didn't see his face," Eliza admitted. "It was dark, crowded. I thought he was the aide." Her words faltered, and Miss Marple sensed a deeper secret, one Eliza guarded as fiercely as Sir Reginald had clutched the jade lantern. Madame Duval interjected, her voice sharp. "Inspector, I saw a man in a cloak near the stalls, buying herbs from a vendor. Could it be related?" Her eagerness to deflect was palpable, and Miss Marple wondered if her earlier omission about the dagger was deliberate. Dr. Liang remained silent, but his fingers drummed lightly on the table, a rhythm that betrayed unease. Tommy, meanwhile, scribbled notes, his journalist's instincts overriding his fear. "This is bigger than we thought," he muttered. "Smuggling, blackmail, murder. It's a web." Miss Marple sipped her tea, her mind threading the clues. The dagger from Madame Duval, Eliza's secret meeting, Dr. Liang's poisons, Tommy's convenient mask. "It's like a riddle lantern," she murmured. "The answer glows within, but you must look past the glare." The rain outside slackened, but the tea-house felt stifling, each glance among the group charged with unspoken accusations. As they dispersed, Miss Marple lingered, her eyes on the river where lanterns still floated, their flames guttering in the drizzle. "People think water washes away secrets," she said to herself, "but it often carries them to light." The whispers among the lanterns were growing louder, and she sensed the truth was close. Hidden, perhaps, in the very shadows the festival had tried to banish. Chapter 6. The Flickering Truth. The Shanghai evening settled over the French concession like a velvet curtain. heavy with the promise of secrets unveiled. The rain had ceased, leaving the air thick with the scent of wet stone and fading festival incense. At the Jade Pavilion Tea House, its lacquered tables now sparsely occupied, Miss Jane Marple sat with her knitting, the click of her needles a metronome to her racing thoughts. The murder of Sir Reginald Hargrove had woven a tapestry of motives, debts, artifacts, blackmail, each thread taut with suspicion. Tonight, she sensed, the pattern would resolve, much like the tangled affair of the St. Mary Mead Choir funds, where truth emerged from the chaos of whispered accusations. The group reconvened under the tea-house's soft glow, summoned by Miss Marple's quiet insistence to Inspector Chen that a gathering might clarify matters. Eliza Hargrove sat stiffly, her jade ring catching the lamplight as she avoided Tommy Beresford's concerned glance. Released from custody after his alibi held, Tommy clutched his notebook, his journalist's zeal tempered by wariness. Dr. Leung Wei, his silk robe pristine despite the day's turmoil, sipped tea with studied calm, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of unease. Madame Duval, her hat now a subdued affair of black velvet, twisted her pearls, her usual flair muted by the weight of the occasion. Inspector Chen stood by the balcony, his moustache twitching as he surveyed the group, ready to pounce on any slip. Miss Marple set her knitting aside, her voice gentle but commanding attention. "It's like the riddle lanterns of the festival, isn't it? The answer lies within, but one must look beyond the dazzle to see it clearly." Her words hung in the air, and the group shifted uncomfortably, as if sensing the net tightening. Inspector Chen presented a new piece of evidence, a vial of aconite found in a festival stall's refuse, its label matching Dr. Liang's herbal collection. "Poison on the dagger, Doctor," Chen said sharply. "Your poison. Explain." Dr. Liang's spectacles glinted as he leaned forward. "Aconite is a remedy in small doses, Inspector. I keep it locked away. Someone must have taken it, perhaps when I was distracted at the festival." His voice was steady, but Miss Marple noted the slight tremor in his hand, like a village apothecary caught with a mislabeled jar. Madame Duval gasped, her pearls clicking. "I was with Dr. Liang when the scream rang out. We were at a charm stall. He couldn't have done it." Her defense was fervent, but Miss Marple's sharp eyes caught a stray peacock feather, fallen from her festival hat, among the stall's debris near the murder scene. "Madame," she said mildly, "your loyalty is admirable, but feathers have a way of marking their path, don't they?" Eliza's face paled, her ring twisting intensifying. "This is madness! Uncle was stabbed, not poisoned." Her protest drew Chen's scrutiny, and Miss Marple recalled the note Tommy had found. "Meet me at the Dragon. Bring the payment." And Eliza's claim it was about a will. The story felt flimsy, like a villager's excuse for a midnight rendezvous gone wrong. Tommy, emboldened, spoke up. "I've been digging, Inspector. Sir Reginald was tied to a smuggling ring. Jade artifacts, shipped to London collectors. My story was going to expose it. Maybe that's why someone wanted him silenced." His eyes flicked to Eliza, then away, as if torn between loyalty and suspicion. Miss Marple nodded, her mind threading the clues. The dagger from Madame Duval, the poison from Dr. Liang, the note from Eliza, the mask framing Tommy. "It's like a jigsaw puzzle in St. Mary Mead," she said softly, "where one piece seems to fit, but only when you turn it just so does the picture emerge." She rose, her small frame commanding the room, and addressed them all. "Let us consider the jade lantern Sir Reginald clutched as he died. Why hold it so tightly unless it held the key to his fate. She turned to Eliza, her gaze kind but unyielding. "My dear, your ring. Its design matches the dagger's etchings. A coincidence, perhaps, but I've learned there are few such things in murder. Your husband's death, you said, was no accident. Did Sir Reginald know something that threatened you?" Eliza's eyes widened, her voice a whisper. "You're mistaken, Aunt Jane. I loved Uncle." But her hands betrayed her, clutching the ring as if it burned. Miss Marple continued, her tone as gentle as a lullaby. "Sir Reginald discovered a truth about your husband's fall from that Devon cliff. A fall orchestrated, perhaps, with poison from Dr. Liang's collection, supplied unwittingly through a dealer's exchange. When your uncle pressed you, threatening exposure, you saw your inheritance and your freedom at risk." Dr. Liang stiffened. "Impossible! My herbs are for healing, not murder!" But Miss Marple raised a hand. "You were unaware, Doctor, as was Madame Duval when she bought the dagger, thinking it a gift. But Eliza knew its purpose. She used the festival's chaos, planting Tommy's mask to mislead, passing a note to lure her uncle to the dragon lantern." Madame Duval's pearls snapped, scattering across the floor. "Mon Dieu! I bought it for him, yes, but I didn't know." Her distress seemed genuine, yet Miss Marple noted her Yao Jin system, her reluctance to admit guilt, a hallmark of Agatha Christie's villains. "You accuse without proof!" Eliza cried, her voice shrill. "This is an old woman's fancy." But her face was ashen, and Miss Marple saw the truth in her eyes, like a cornered fox in a village hunt. Inspector Chen stepped forward, his moustache bristling. "Miss Hargrove, the note you passed was no will arrangement. We found the lawyer's aid. He received no such message. And the jade ring's design, as Miss Marple noted, matches the dagger's. A family crest, perhaps, linking you to the weapon?" Tommy's jaw dropped. "Eliza, tell them it's not true." But her silence was damning, her hands trembling as she stood. Miss Marple's voice softened. "Greed and fear, my dear, burn brighter than any lantern. You poisoned your husband for his fortune, and when Sir Reginald suspected, you silenced him with a dagger, using the festival's chaos to mask your deed." She paused, her eyes kind but firm. "The broken lantern he held was your mistake. It bore your ring's mark, a clue you couldn't retrieve." Chen produced handcuffs, his face grim. "Miss Eliza Hargrove, you are under arrest." As she was led away, her sobs echoed, and Tommy stared after her, his notebook forgotten. Miss Marple resumed her knitting, her heart heavy. "It's always sad," she murmured to Chen, "when light reveals such darkness, like a lantern snuffed out too soon." The tea-house fell silent, the truth flickering like a flame finally steadied. Chapter 7. Lanterns extinguished. The Shanghai dawn broke with a reluctant glow, as if the city hesitated to face the aftermath of the Lantern Festival's grim denouement. The Huangpu River shimmered faintly under a sky streaked with clouds, its surface no longer dotted with floating lanterns, but instead reflecting the sombre mood of a mystery resolved. Miss Jane Marple stood at the rail of the Empress of the East, her steamer homeward bound, her small figure wrapped in a shawl against the morning chill. Her knitting bag rested at her feet, a silent companion to her reflections on the tangled web of greed and betrayal that had unravelled in the tea-house the previous night. The arrest of Eliza Hargrove had snuffed out the festival's last embers, leaving only the stark light of truth. The villa in the French concession, now emptied of its guests, stood as a mute witness to the drama's close. Inspector Chen had acted swiftly after Miss Marple's revelations, his moustache no longer twitching with suspicion but set firm with resolve. Eliza's attempt to flee, her jade ring slipping from her finger as she stumbled toward the tea-house door, had been her final admission. The ring, etched with a crest matching the ceremonial dagger, lay on the lacquered table like a fallen star, its green gleam a silent accusation. "People carry their guilt in small things," Miss Marple had murmured to Chen, her voice soft as the rustle of silk. "Like a locket or a letter, it's the little details that betray them." The morning before her departure, Miss Marple had lingered in Shanghai's old city, wandering the now quiet lanes where lanterns hung limp and sodden from their wires. The vendors sweeping away the festival's debris spoke in hushed tones of the murder, their tales already weaving into local legend. She paused at the stall where Madame Duval had bought the dagger, the vendor nodding recognition. "You were right, lady," he said, his weathered face creased with respect. "That bird-hat woman, she paid quick, no haggle, like she wanted it done fast." Miss Marple smiled faintly, her mind recalling a St. Mary Mead grocer who'd sold a tainted jar of preserves with similar haste, unwittingly aiding a darker purpose. At the tea-house, Tommy Beresford had sought her out, his youthful face etched with disillusionment. "I can't believe it was Eliza," he said, his notebook tucked away, its pages filled with a story he now hesitated to write. "She seemed so fragile. I thought I could help her." His voice cracked, and Miss Marple patted his arm, her touch as gentle as a grandmother's. "Young men often see what they wish to see, Mr. Beresford," she said, "like the boys in my village, chasing after a pretty face only to find a heart hardened by greed. You'll write your story, and it will be a fine one. Truth always makes the best headlines." Dr. Liang Wei, cleared of suspicion, had visited her at the villa, his silk robe as impeccable as his regained composure. "You saw what I could not, Miss Marple," he admitted, his spectacles glinting in the morning light. "I lent Sir Reginald the lantern, never suspecting Eliza would use my herbs for such ends. Aconite, meant to heal, turned to poison in her hands." His voice held a note of regret, and Miss Marple nodded, thinking of a village chemist who'd once mourned a similar misuse of his craft. "Intentions are like lanterns, Doctor," she said. "They light the way, but others may twist their glow." Madame Duval, her flamboyance dimmed, had sent a note of apology, claiming ignorance of the dagger's purpose. "I thought it a gift, nothing more," she'd written, her script as florid as her hats. Miss Marple, reading it over tea, had smiled wryly. "Ignorance is a convenient cloak," she mused, "but it frays under scrutiny." She suspected Madame Duval's role was minor, a pawn in Eliza's scheme, much like the unwitting accomplice in that chipping Cleghorn poisoning case. Inspector Chen, in a rare moment of candour, had joined her for tea before her steamer's departure. "You have a sharp mind, Miss Marple," he said, his moustache softening with a grudging smile. "Shanghai is a city of shadows, but you found the light." She inclined her head, her eyes twinkling. "Shadows are merely the absence of light, Inspector. In St. Mary Mead, we learn to look where the light falls faintest. It's there the truth hides." The evidence had sealed Eliza's fate. The jade ring's crest, identical to the dagger's etchings, tied her to the weapon. The smudged note, recovered from the river's edge, bore her handwriting. Not a lawyer's summons, but a lure to draw Sir Reginald to his death. And a witness, a festival acrobat, had seen her slip the stolen tiger mask into the crowd, framing Tommy. The aconite, traced to Dr. Liang's collection, had laced the dagger's blade, ensuring a swift end even if the stab faltered. Eliza's motive, her husband's murder for inheritance, exposed by Sir Reginald's suspicions, had driven her to kill again, using the festival's chaos as her stage. As the steamer's whistle sounded, Miss Marple gazed at the receding skyline, the Bun's grand edifices fading into the mist. The river bore no more lanterns, their wishes spent, their misfortunes either carried away or, in Eliza's case, anchored by her own hand. "People are the same everywhere," she said softly to Tommy, who'd come to see her off, his camera slung over his shoulder. "In Shanghai or St. Mary Mead, greed lights a path to downfall, and fear snuffs out even the brightest flame." Tommy managed a rueful smile. "I'm calling my story The Lantern's Shadow, thanks to you. Shanghai won't forget this festival." He hesitated, then added, "Nor will I forget your knack for seeing what's hidden." Miss Marple chuckled, adjusting her shawl. "It's only a matter of watching, my dear. People reveal themselves in their glances, their hesitations, like a dropped stitch in a pattern. It unravels the whole." She boarded the gangplank, her step light despite her years, her mind already drifting to the quiet of her village, where new puzzles surely awaited. As the steamer pulled away, the last fireworks of the festival's memory flickered in her mind. Bursts of light that had illuminated a darkness no lantern could banish. She opened her knitting bag, her needles resuming their rhythm, each stitch a testament to order restored. Shanghai's secrets had been laid bare, its shadows dispelled. And Miss Marple, with a faint smile, knew that even in the farthest corners of the world, human nature remained her truest map. The river stretched ahead, its surface calm but ever moving, carrying the steamer toward home. In the distance, a single lantern bobbed defiantly, its flame a final echo of a festival that had burned too brightly and too briefly before the truth extinguished its glow.